the Healing Through Love podcast with Sharlene Lynch and Rose Davidson. David Essel discusses the realities of domestic violence and the need for effective victim support in episode 104.
So we went back into the origin. And remember, Sharlene, in our belief system, anyway, all of this starts between 0 and 18. What leads to being in a relationship, and we'll stay stereotypical here, what leads to a woman being in a relationship with an abusive man? Because it happens both ways. Low self-confidence, low self-esteem. And usually they do not have the role models at home that are encouraging healthy confidence and healthy self-esteem. So you put those combinations together. And if a woman finds a guy that's attracted to her and gives her attention, and she's not used to getting attention, that's a hard thing to walk away from. If you haven't been nurtured and loved as a child, and someone starts to show you nurturing and loving, and it could be something called love bombing, which we'll talk about in a second, it all starts 0 to 18. So when this woman contacted me, I said, I need to know your history. I need to know your story from 0 to 18. Like, was there any kind of sexual misconduct? Was there any type of abuse, physical, mental, emotional? Was that, what happened?
Welcome to another episode of Healing Through Love. Each week, we share ideas, experiences, and resources to increase the awareness of domestic and family violence and to empower survivors to grow and thrive. We talk with experts who share their advice, or with people who have experienced abuse, no matter where they are on their journey. This is all about healing through love. And now, here are your hosts, Sharlene Lynch and Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to the Healing Through Love podcast, a space where stories of strength, resilience, and transformation unfold. I'm your host, Sharlene Lynch, and I'm honoured to guide you on this journey of empowerment and healing. Today, we have a very special episode tailored just for you. Whether you're driving or sipping a cup of tea or simply taking a moment for yourself, I want you to know that you're in a safe place. Healing Through Love is more than just a podcast. It's a community, a beacon of hope and a reminder that you're not alone. In this episode, we have a guest who'll share a story, or two, I should say, that resonates with the core of our mission. A story that illuminates the power of love, resilience, and unwavering strength that lies within each of us. So settle in and take a deep breath and let the healing begin. But before we dive into our inspiring narrative today, a quick reminder that if you value our episodes and consider supporting us by subscribing and sharing and leave a review, your engagement with us helps more than you know spread the message of healing through love. Today, we've got a very special guest with us. I'm very excited, all the way from the States. We've got David Essel with us. He's a member of, he is a #1 bestseller of more than 15 books. And I understand that we're going to be talking about 5 of them today. He's a master life coach, an international speaker, radio TV host, a minister whose mission is to positively impact 12 million people. Wow, that's amazing. And welcome to the stage. And hello, David, how are you?
Sharlene, I have been looking forward to being with you for a long time. The message that you guys and what your organization is doing is needed so badly. Today, I have some statistics that will prove how badly your mission is needed. And when you read me your 2 mission statements, you nailed it. You guys are doing phenomenal. So I'm so excited to be with you, and let's help people heal.
Oh, I love it. Now, there's a backstory. I know we were chatting off screen before. Are you open to sharing that with our audience today?
Yeah, there's this really phenomenal experience I had 25 years ago. I've been a counselor for 45 years. I've worked with domestic violence individuals for 40 of those 45 years. So I'm fairly well adjusted to what's needed to help people heal. I actually go into women's shelters and I train the counselors on the most recent information that they may not know of that could help them. But 25 years ago, I got a call from the state of Washington here in the United States. I'm in Florida. Washington is the opposite coast of the United States. And it was a woman that for years had been in domestic violence relationships. When we went back to the origin, and this is crucially important in the world of these relationships, we wonder, why would someone stay? Like, right? The signs are there. And Sharlene, here's something interesting. In my 45 years of counseling, I have found out that the signs of any unhealthy, dysfunctional, chaos-related relationship will be exposed between 30 and 60 days. It is there from the beginning. It is there. The signs are there. We don't see them because of our desire to be in love, because of lust, because of all of these things that we will talk about today. But, it was amazing. And when we look back at the origin of why was she selecting these certain men, and I have a story from Australia, as a matter of fact, that'll blow your mind, one of my clients from Australia. But when we look back, it started with her father. And her father had multiple affairs on her mother. Her father did not respect her mother at all. So as a young girl, she took in that this is the way marriages are, that the man is in control and the woman does whatever. So she went through a series of relationships, and she contacted me one day and said, I don't know what's going on. Long story short, in 6 months, we had her out of the insanity she was in. And I didn't hear from her until about 60 days ago. And I found out she was back in an incredibly abusive, trapped relationship. She had no rights in the relationship. She was told when to cut her hair, how to cut it, who to go to, when to go to the gym, who she could talk to. This is all normal. This is not abnormal stuff in the world of toxic relationships, right? There wasn't a thing that she could control. He bought her a car. He kept it in his name. When she said, you bought me that car? Yes. Could we put it in my name? He said, oh, that's not necessary. See, that's called a trap, because now you have no escape. It took us 30 days to create a plan for her to escape. And she escaped. And when she escaped and told me where she was going, I told her the very first thing, do not stop anywhere. Go right to a women's shelter. Go and talk to someone. Don't even look for a hotel. Don't look for anything. Tell them your situation, because they may have a room for you to sleep in, like many of them do, right? And you and I were talking off camera about the fact that these are safe houses. A lot of these are safe houses that no one knows about except for the women that are going there. When I go to speak at shelters, they have me go around in case someone's following me, right? They have me go up and down all these streets that are unnecessary to make sure the safe house stays a safe house. The story gets better. When she went to the shelter, the woman said, hey, not only can we help you with, the housing, we also have legal support. If your former boyfriend tries to come and stalk or do anything, we have direct connection with the police department. We have direct connection with other counselors that can help you. We have everything you need. Now, Sharlene, what's so beautiful about this story is that she finally got to a place where she feels hopeful. I also asked her to commit to 2 years of no dating at all. And she knows it's important, because we have to go back to that origin, and she's got to do the work that she stopped doing that led her into another toxic relationship. A lot of these are generationally based. In other words, you see mom or dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, and uncle, and you carry on, and you don't think there's anything abnormal about it because that's what you saw. May I share another story?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, this is from Australia. Now, this is about 20 years ago, and a woman contacted me, and I think her endorsement is still on my site somewhere. But she contacted me and said, I don't have any idea of why I'm constantly choosing alcoholics, abusers, emotional abusers, physical abusers. I have no clue. David, I'm 55 years of age. I'm almost ready to give up on the whole world of dating and everything else. I have gone from one person that tears me down emotionally, tells me I'm unattractive, tells me I'm too fat, tells me I go from that into a guy that hits me. I go from that into an alcoholic. Like, what is up? So we went back into the origin. And remember, Sharlene, in our belief system, anyway, all of this starts between 0 and 18. What leads to being in a relationship, and we'll stay stereotypical here, what leads to a woman being in a relationship with an abusive man? Because it happens both ways. Low self-confidence, low self-esteem, and usually they do not have the role models at home that are encouraging healthy confidence and healthy self-esteem. So you put those combinations together, and if a woman finds a guy that's attracted to her and gives her attention, and she's not used to getting attention, that's a hard thing to walk away from. If you haven't been nurtured and loved as a child, and someone starts to show you nurturing and loving, and it could be something called love bombing, which we'll talk about in a second, it all starts 0 to 18. So when this woman contacted me, I said, I need to know your history. I need to know your story from 0 to 18. Like, was there any kind of sexual misconduct? Was there any type of abuse, physical, mental, emotional? Was that, like, what happened? Your mom, dad, family? We went through her whole family and we found it. And it was an uncle. Unfortunately, the favorite uncle of the family, who would leer at her. Now, she was 10 years of age. She didn't know what those looks meant, but it made her feel uncomfortable. She would go into the house. There'd be 25 people at a family barbecue. They would get together frequently, like once every 3 to 4 weeks. 25, 30 family members get together for some big cookout. If she went into the house, the uncle followed her. She went in and hid underneath the bed, and he opened the sheets from the floor, grabbed her by the leg, and pulled her out. Held on to her and said, honey, you don't have to be afraid of me. Every time she saw him, she wanted to run. And of course, mom or dad are going, that's Uncle Joe or Uncle Bill, or he's our favorite. He loves everybody. She had no one to turn to. She couldn't share what was going on because no one would believe her. And they would think that she was making it up. So she was raised in an environment that said, do not trust men. So what was she most attracted to? Untrustworthy men, because that's how she grew up. So when we look at that, now let's say someone grows up in a nice household and they get into a domestic violence relationship. You go, how the heck could that happen? Very easily. There are, and this word I use, but I use carefully, because about 2.5% of the world's population falls into this. But in the world of domestic violence, the ratio is much higher, and that's narcissism. So you have a narcissist who preys on a codependent woman, and you have hell on wheels. It is not a woman who's going to stand there and push back and fight. And, she's just going to go, oh my God, someone loves me. Someone cares for me. In our book, Focus, Slay Your Goals, that became a #1 bestseller about 4 years ago, we write about the love scale, 1 to 10. And the first probably 10 years of my counseling career, I didn't believe a woman in a domestic abuse relationship could really be in love with her abuser. I just didn't believe it. I said, no, it's not love. It's not really love. But then I learned a lot. And it is love, Sharlene. When you return to an abuser, it's love that you think is love. Now, on the scale of 1 to 10, it falls into the categories of 1 to 4, which is called dysfunctional, chaotic, unhealthy love, right? So we have broken it down now so people can understand when someone says, but I love him. I understand the terminology. She loves him from what she knows love is, but her understanding of love needs to be completely turned around so that she can learn to love herself. And if she would love herself, she would never go down that roadway again. But listen, we also have to remember this. A lot of times women don't come in for help. And I know I'm staying very stereotypical here, and I'm sorry, but it is a higher percentage of women than men that are in this situation. But, a lot of them are so afraid to ask for help. They're so afraid to admit that they're being abused emotionally, financially, sexually, in all kinds of ways, trapped. One of the most common traits we see is when a man starts to limit the people that this woman can see, can hang around. Oh, that's such a huge red flag, right? But before that, there were 50 other red flags in the first 30 days or 60 days. I have yet, Sharlene, to meet anyone that's been in these kind of environments that hasn't had a knowledge. When I asked them to write what was the first 30 days like, they go, I can't believe I stayed. There was another woman I worked with. I just helped divorce out of another horrendous relationship. They were married 38 years. She was in an emotionally abusive, hellacious, emotionally abusive relationship for 38 years. We went back and I said, let's take a look at the first 30 days when you met this guy 38 years ago. Listen, and this is why I want everyone to wake up. The signs of the perpetrator are there from the beginning, but you have to have open mind, open eyes. Her very first date, Sharlene, he brings her to his fraternity house there when he was in college, leaves her by herself for 4 hours in a living room, and she knew nobody. 4 hours later, he comes down and says, let's go. Now, right away, that should raise flags. Right away, a woman with high self-confidence, I don't care how good looking he is, I don't care how much money he has, I don't care anything. Someone with high level of self-confidence and self-esteem would look at him and say, that was our last date. It's the first and the last, my love. But I wouldn't say it. I would get safely home, text him, block him. And, a lot of people, when I tell them, you're going to probably have to block this person. Well, why is that? Well, let's see. You've gone back 10 times. It hasn't worked, self-control, and so we use these techniques, not as being a nasty person. No, it's called saving your freaking life. It's the start of confidence and self-esteem. When you're being triggered, and I'm going to go into love bombing, then Sharlene, I'm going to shut up for a minute, and you'll have 2 minutes to talk, even though it's your podcast. I'm just taking over, baby.
Keep going. No control issues here.
What'd you say?
No control issues here.
Okay, good. What was I just saying about, love bombing?
Love bombing, yeah.
And that's another thing that abusive partners will use, So as an example, I have a male client that admits that he's been in multiple relationships and he's treated people or women with no respect whatsoever. And I said, hey, give me an idea of, what's like a first date? And he says to me, well, the last woman that I was out with before she left me because I was verbally abusive every day, the first date was a week in the Bahamas. And I said, okay, now wait a minute. Did you guys go to Starbucks for coffee first? He said, no. He goes, we met online, we talked on the phone, and I booked the flight and took her. That's love bombing, right? Because what's a woman going to expect after that? Oh my God, she's going to be blown away. We're flying. Our first date is on an island in the Bahamas, and he's paying for everything. Her guard is let down. She's not seeing the reality that she saw 3 months later. And when she tried to get out of it, it was hell for her. So, one of the most important messages, and I don't want women to feel guilty with what I'm saying. There's no guilt because you didn't know this until you heard this today, probably, okay? Or if maybe you needed to hear it 1,000 times. We have to slow down. And we have to begin the process, especially if we've had any kind of abuse in the past, mental, emotional, financial, physical. We've really got to take time to get to know people. When I say that, I mean, you date someone and you say, let's get together in 2 weeks. You take your time. And if he runs away and he says, oh, I'm not waiting 2 weeks to see you again. Good. You've just gotten rid of someone that probably could have been a pain in your butt. If you say, I'll see them once a week, well, I can probably negotiate down a little bit and say maybe once a week, but you have to keep your eyes open. You have to look for signs. You have to look for lies. You have to look for, let's do this, and then nothing happens. People can talk good games to pull you in, to rein you in, You can be complimented left and right, and maybe you've never gotten a lot of compliments. That's love bombing from that potential perspective. So if we can start to slow down, Sharlene, and this is something your organization is helping people do, and you just told me that you've got events happening in the United States, you've got 8 coming up, my God, you guys are rocking it, and we need this. And we need women to know there are places to go, seminars to attend, whatever it is that you're offering, we need people to know, and especially women to know this. Now, listen, here's a statistic that's mind-blowing. In the United States of America, 64% of adults have admitted to being abused in some way by a partner. 64%. 35% of women have been abused so greatly that they're suffering even single. 28% of men, believe it or not, it's a high percentage, have been in extremely destructive relationships with women. So, when we look at that 35% of women and 28% of men who have been in horrendous domestic violence situations, you wouldn't think it was that close. Most of us would think it would be 90% women, 10% men. But, it's catching up. 40 years ago, it was 90-10. It's not that way anymore. Why is that? We really don't know, to be quite honest with you. Have women become more abusive because of women's liberation? It's like, what? Probably not. Probably not. My best guess is that we have more men who are not raised in healthy environments. We have more people being raised in very unhealthy environments in today's society. The American Psychological Association 4 months ago came out with this massive survey. 80% of marriages reported they were in the worst shape they've ever been in. We have a lot of reasons for this. If you look back at the last 5 years of what this world has gone through, the human brain, emotions can only handle so much stress. And then we snap. And that's why we need to teach emotional regulation, which is a fancy word for how to deal with your emotions in a healthy way. We have to start it in elementary, middle, high school, college. Emotional regulation is never taught. In my profession as a counselor, it is probably one of the most powerful tools. Once you learn it, you start to trust your intuition. You start to say no instead of yes when you know no is the right answer. You shatter codependency. Now, every domestic violence individual who's trapped is in a codependent relationship with their abuser, and they have to learn how to get out. Another story, Sharlene, I lied a little while ago. I said I was going to give you time to speak. I'm not going to. There was a last one, and I'm gonna give you. Let's see. I'm sure you can get everything you need to say in 60 seconds. So I'll just. But the last one I'm gonna tell you is that and I can't mention anything else other than a very high profile wife. If I mention who her husband is, everyone knows. Contacted me a year and a half ago, and we had to do the same thing. We had to help her escape the house. And it's always done with diversion techniques. It's always done with, I'm going here, I'm going there. We have people covering, girlfriends, boyfriends covering. I mean, it's quite a phenomenal experience to help people escape. And that's where the shelters can come in too. Every time I get a call from a woman in a domestic violence situation, the very first thing I say is, I'll definitely work with you as your counselor, but I want you connected with your local women's shelter today. I want you to have someone in your city. I'm not in your city. And even if I was, I'm not Rambo. I can't come and save you and beat people up and all that kind of stuff. I don't need to be in jail. But you do need to contact your local women's shelter. When we had this very high profile wife finally move far away, very first thing she did is she went to a women's shelter. She had to put away money in order to escape. She had to hide things. And, most of the time you'd say, well, David, doesn't that shatter your integrity if you're helping someone hide money so that they can escape? And the answer for me is no. If there's someone who's being abused, I don't care what anyone else thinks of me. I'm going to do what I know is right. And if you agree with me, awesome. And if you don't agree with me, awesome. Because it's worked for 45 years and I'm not changing.
I love it. I'm going to say something while you're taking a breath. Okay, there is so much to unpack there. I love the thought process in and around perhaps maybe what's happening in a family domestic violence situation, how that progresses to a domestic family violence and more. So I'd love to unpack on another episode. And I really would love to, if you could, with our audience, just chat a little bit about the 5, because I understand you've got 15 books, and out of that, 5 of them are available for free. So listeners today, you can get in there and just binge on this.
That's right.
And this is on your website. Can you talk about the 5 books that are available for free?
Yeah. So one of them is called Helping Americans Heal, and the subtitle is Moving Through These Challenging Times. And it really is helping the world to heal. Okay. We have in there a grief, we have relationship articles. It's 90 different writings on everything we're going through: mental health, anxiety, depression, PTSD, and domestic violence. 99% of women are PTSD. They've moved past anxiety, depression, and they're in the big mother. And PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is a combination of everything I just mentioned. It's low self-confidence, low self-esteem, high anxiety, high levels of depression. A lot of times women and men with PTSD become agoraphobic. They're afraid to leave their home. They become addicts. Food, alcohol, drugs. I mean, and this is very normal too with domestic violence individuals. Many of them turn to addiction as a way to try to cope with the stress of being a captive, with the stress of having no control over their life. So they try to escape mentally through drugs, alcohol, nicotine. Food is a huge, huge addiction item. So we have to really look at this stuff and get very serious with it, Sharlene, just like your organization is. There's so much information like what you and I are sharing, that I'm sharing, and you're beautifully listening. This doesn't escape me, the humor here, Sharlene, either. But, you know, we have so much great information to share. And what's so surprising to me still today, Sharlene, you said, you know, I can't believe this is going on in 2024. I can't either. I think the last 5 years really has done a number on this world. People are doing and saying things they normally would never say. You know, I have clients that are great clients that I've known for 20, 25, 30 years. I worked with 25 years ago. They come back today, completely different people. Alcoholism is massive, you know, all around the world. It's a huge, when you put alcohol in with two people that have background differences, belief differences, whatever it might be, alcohol is an amazing fuel. And it is usually a part of many domestic violence situations, if not alcohol, drugs, or both.
Absolutely, on every level. I'm a recovered alcoholic, so yes, I can tell that story. I love it. Okay, so there's more that we have to unpack, and I love that you've shined a light on if we could educate the children in and around emotional resilience and help them give that space between thought and action. What would that look like? That would look like bulletproof kids. That would look like kids that wouldn't be in a situation where they'd be living below the line and then be the victim and be attracting that sort of narcissistic behavior. So I think that's where we need to start. Conversations in our churches, conversations in our schools, and even at a younger age as well, because we know those children for some part are already experiencing it, and they don't have the skill set to stand up and make a comment about it and break that pattern that has gone before them. So yeah, I love it. There's so much more I want to talk about. We're going to put so you're going to come back, that's for sure. We're going to put the links in the show notes and also in the description, so that you can have access, audience, to the books, to the 5 books, and also to reach out if you're needing this level of assistance, and even just to share this with other people, because we all know somebody who still needs a hand. And I love it. If you're listening today and you are a practitioner of any sort, if you feel the heart drawn to come and be a participant, be an exhibitor at one of our Pamper Days, please reach out. We've got them now globally, and we would love to have you come and pay it forward and hold that space for someone else to heal. It's been an amazing conversation. I can't believe we've been talking so long. Well, you've been talking so long. Well, that's the longest I've ever been quiet, just saying. David. David, I'll just, in closing, you know, what words of wisdom would you like to share with our audience?
You know, you're worthy of being loved by a person who loves you. And until you find that person, learn to love yourself and be comfortable loving yourself. We tell all my clients, never date until you're happy alone. Never even date until you wake up and you go, you know, I really love myself. I really love how I'm improving. I love the fact that I'm walking now. I love the fact I'm learning meditation. You know, I love the fact that I'm taking care of myself. I'm eating better. Learn to love yourself. And the more you love yourself, the odds of you getting involved with someone that is so unhealthy drops dramatically. You won't go there. And please remember, the first 30 and 60 days, look for signs that are uncomfortable. Really be on the lookout. That's another sign of self-love. When
I
you're
love
looking for those things, right, that are not a match for you. Now, I will say this in a very gentle way. If you're dating someone that has a habit, let's say chewing gum, that bothers you, okay? I don't say run away from them. I say, hey, have a conversation. When you chew gum and it snaps in the movie, it bothers me and it bothers, could you just not chew gum in the movies? Would that be possible, honey? Like if there's things like that, we ask them to change. But if there's some serious things like the story I told you about the gentleman on the first date that left the woman for 4 hours, that's a serious offense. And for 38 years, she went through hell because she went back after that first experience. Learn to love yourself. And if you don't know how, reach out to Sharlene. Reach out to a local women's shelter. You don't do it alone. You won't be able to. I'm not saying because you're weak and you're not strong, but there are patterns in the subconscious mind that create by us that draw us back to those same experiences. Sharlene admitted that she was a former alcoholic. I was a cocaine addict and alcoholic for 30 years. I know as a counselor, getting people sober left and right, I could not get myself sober. I had to go to a treatment center. I had to hire an addiction counselor for a year. That showed I loved myself. You can do the same thing by reaching out and asking for help. When you ask for help, that says, I love myself enough to be vulnerable and open with you. Would you please help me? And you'll get the help you want.
I love it. What a wonderful close, David. Thank you so much, audience, for listening to us. And stay tuned because I'm sure there'll be a part 2. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Healing Through Love. You can get further resources, see the show notes, or simply reach out to us via our website at htlaustralia.org. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to your company next time on the Healing Through Love podcast.